Welcome to the Be More You podcast.
We're your hosts, Mon
and Stefan.
And this is a space where we want you to be more like you
and less like everyone else.
Enjoy this episode. Alright, so today on the Be More You podcast, we have my really good friend, LENA MOXON. Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Lena.
Hi.
I'm really excited to have you on this podcast. I mean, our chats are always amazing, and I think you have a world of knowledge across so many different areas of life. So thank you so much for saying yes to being here today to share that.
So welcome. And you know what's really funny about that? You say, I feel like you have a world of knowledge, but I swear every day what I realise is I know nothing.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Which I think is what makes for a really good conversation, because come into it and we're sharing with each other, this is what I've kind of downloaded, this is the way I'm seeing things, this is what I'm letting go of. It's always new, it's always fresh. So I'm excited for today.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't even know what I'm going to ask you. But anyway, first things first, I would love you to just share with us what it is you're doing at the moment, because you do a lot of different things. So what is it that you're currently working on that's got you super excited?
Everything, and so many things, to be honest. In the last few months, I think I have really powerfully stepped into owning just how powerfully I can support people in stepping into their own power and their own purpose within their own lives. And I spent a lot of time thinking that I needed a specific formula, I needed to be able to share a system, I needed a framework that I could come out with and advertise and say, this is what I do, A plus B equals C. Yeah. This is where I'm going to move you to. And that's always felt a little bit clunky. That's never been something that I have been able to really articulate well. And it just made everything feel really hard. So every time I would try and create, make impact, it would always just feel a little bit too hard basket, a little bit uphill. And I've spent a lot of time in deep study in lots of different areas. And what I have realized is that a lot of the time we think that we have to share the story of our past and who we are and how we can help somebody through the lens of the pain that we have been through. And I think in the last few months, the way that my work has changed is that I'm no longer aligning myself to any part of my story that is about the pain, and I'm allowing myself to be seen in my power. So that means I have really been able to stop thinking about the things that have happened that maybe felt like missteps or regrets or things that I've had to overcome, and instead really focus on how did I make certain choices in my life? What were the things that I learned? What were the things that helped me? And really cultivating that in a way that becomes useful for somebody else. And I think my resistance around that for so long had been that it is actually more vulnerable to stand in full power than it is to speak of our pain.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is like what we were talking about the other week with Steve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like getting caught on that step of being like, I just think everybody right now. Sorry, I fully
that's fine.
But no, I couldn't agree with you more, because it was one of the reasons why I was always so reluctant to even about anything, because everybody talks about their past, and it's like these are a long list of fucked up things that happened, and that's it. It's like,
well, we're kind of almost groomed for that, because the hero's journey is what we celebrate.
Yes, of course. Yep.
And so we're all out here trying to think, what's my story? What's my overcome? What's the thing that I'm going to share? And I witnessed it in myself in many ways, because I've made some really powerful choices in the last 5 years in particular. And I felt myself every time that I went to support somebody else and have them see me in my full power in a way that was going to help them kind of transcend what they were moving through. I would reconnect to my pain and bring that forward as well, as a way to make me more acceptable, more digestible, to seem...
I understand.
You know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
And I had to stop and ask myself and think, when is it going to... no longer be the part of my story that I hold as part of my identity. Because I kept making divorce, the way that I moved out of certain businesses, the ways that I moved out of the state that I was living in, part of my identity. And the truth was, at the base of my being, none of that was relevant. It was the choices that I made. And so I've spent a lot of time just not disassociating from the story of struggle, because I suppose it is part of my makeup, but no longer leveraging that as the easy way to tell my story and to put myself forward. I'm not the divorce, I'm the woman who packed her bag and moved and fell in love in a different state.
Yeah.
I'm not the woman that walked away from her business. I'm the woman that created a financial masterpiece after that. I'm the choices that I made. I'm not the pain.
I love that.
You know?
Yes.
And so when I speak to women now, when I'm sitting in front of a woman and I'm supporting her with her business, within her life, within any area of her life, I'm no longer trying to help her deal with the pain or manage the pain or find a way to see the pain in a way that serves her. I'm helping her go back into the past and not look down memory lane as like, oh, look at all the shit that happened to me, but to look into the past and call forward the wisdom of her lived experience. And we do that, like one of the questions that I ask people is, go back into your memory, feel into your past, and can you think of a moment where you chose for yourself, I'm going to be somebody. I'm not my name, I'm not my family, I'm not my circumstance. When did you choose that you were going to be somebody? And for some people, that 5 years old in front of a mirror with a hairbrush where they feel like there's something more for me. For me, it was like, I think at about 12 years old, I'd had an argument with my parents, and I clearly remember writing in my little dear diary, it was yellow and fluffy and so cute, I am not staying here. I distinctly remember writing that down, you know, all indignant and angry, I'm not staying here. And that was the moment that I chose for myself that my life was going to be mine. And once we have that starting point, what we can do is look for the different choices that we made throughout our life that moved us from one place to the other, away from who we thought we were to what we were becoming. And once we do that, what we realize is our choices have been really powerful. Maybe not always the right choice. Maybe we've made really bad choices for ourselves, or maybe we know what we needed to know to make a better choice, but we stop seeing life as something that has happened to us and our pain as something that has occurred for us, and we start seeing everything that we have experienced as a reflection of our own choices. And we're empowered from there. We realize, like, I get to make choices in my life, and when I do, the dots end up connecting in a way that I don't realize at the time, but I can learn to trust.
I think it's really important because it feels like swinging back, because everyone tries to find, I know I have, inspiration from pain, and like be like, I was here, but look where I am now. But I think that only serves you for so long, right? That can be without the comparison piece of being like, you know, I ate, you know, when you're like, oh, I am eating really well, or I'm eating really clean, just as a really simple practical example. At least I'm not what I was then. And I'm like, well, that's not really, I don't have the same values as I did a year ago, so maybe that's not a good comparison. But sometimes I know I've found it really useful being like, fuck, at least I'm not in the bottom of the pit that I was in back then. But the only way I've moved forward is by doing exactly what you said, stepping into that power and being like, holy shit, no, I can own this. And it's got it's literally got nothing to do with all of that. Nothing. I've had this power my whole life. How do I step into it and move forward? And that's when it's like the next level of changes, or the next step forward can actually occur.
And the fun really becomes when you then ask yourself, when you can see all of that and you can acknowledge and you fully get for yourself, man, my life is a reflection of my choices. You start to have fun with it when you can get in a space of courage and curiosity within yourself and ask yourself, for the next part of my journey that I can perceive, because we can never perceive what's forever, right? We can only just taste the next little bit. Our soul always knows there's so much more. But for whatever I can perceive and touch and taste next, what's the choice I would have to make? What do I anticipate the choice that I have to make would be to play full out in that thing? And when we start to play with that, usually all of us have this thing that we can kind of feel, smell, taste, but we know that there's something stopping us, and we make it other people, we might make it resources, finances, a pandemic, whatever excuse feels valid, but usually it's just a choice that we are making or not making. And the clarity around what is that choice that you anticipate you would have to make to play full out, that becomes the thing that lights you up. It wakes you up every day, and that's where the work is. People think that inner work and soul searching and whatever you want to call it is about constantly looking behind us and trying to make ourselves feel better about that. And in some aspects that's useful. What's more productive, what's more inspiring, what's more exciting is if we start to look forward at the choices we know we can make, because we know ourselves as a person that makes powerful decisions through our lives. And then we go, well, how do I bridge that gap between who I am today and being the person that makes the choice.
Yes.
Because we already can, but how do I actually activate the part of me that would make that choice? That's what I do.
That is actually amazing.
And that's why it's a really difficult question for me to answer, because the presence of the how, it's not A plus B equals C for anybody.
Yeah.
And usually it's holding space, and it is asking inquiry questions that I gift to people from a space of insight, I suppose, that they take and they kind of ponder within themselves, and then I hold the space open for them to come back and actually articulate and share what it is they're moving through. Because we get so stuck up here sometimes, you know, and unless we're actually breathing life into our desires, into our downloads, into whatever it is we're kind of processing, it remains stagnant within us.
Absolutely. And do you do that in like one-on-one situations, scenarios with people?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. The online world is wild now, so a lot of it...
Over Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
I've done lots of like... Stacey needs a photo up in the corner of this room. I've done heaps of kinesiology. I'm really tired today. I've done heaps of kinesiology sessions online, and I was like, it's incredible. Like the online space, I was always like, I need this interaction one-on-one with somebody.
Yes.
It's like, but like the beauty of the online space is like, well, somebody call you from Queensland or Perth or another country around the world, and you can still do what you do and have that, hold that space for them. So it's incredible.
Another beautiful thing I've noticed too is I think when we go to an appointment or we step into certain space, we prepare ourselves in a way that allows us to be perceived in a certain way. And I mean, I still see people doing that online. I see people that have spent all day at home are suddenly in an outfit that I know you weren't wearing that 10 minutes ago. You think you have to show up online looking like you have your shit together. But ultimately, when you develop that comfortable relationship, it allows people to just be within the space that they do most of their own contemplation and being, and actually do the work in the space that they exist in.
Yes.
I think it's really easy sometimes. You know, like yoga's a beautiful example.
This is what I was just going to
Go
say.
for it. Tell me.
Because when everything went online, everyone was like, fuck online. Like that was literally a thing. I've got a really good friend of mine that owns a really successful online training business. It's called My Coach. And him and I used to have a lot of conversations together, because obviously in the middle of the pandemic, everyone's lacking connection. So everybody's yearning for the things that have been taken away from them, which I completely understand. And everyone's like, it's not the same as being in studio. And I'm like, it's not. And it shouldn't be. You get the opportunity to create this beautiful space in your own house. And then you can, I think the online space really cuts back that codependency with studios, because, with teachers as well, being like, you're the only person that can give me this feeling, or this space that I walk into is the only place where I can really be present and feel into my body. Where it's like, when you do it online, it's like, holy shit, I can feel this in my own house. Yeah. Then it breaks down the barriers, and then you're like, well, what was I doing? Nothing really. I was just focusing on my breath and feeling into my body. I can do that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's really important. I think I said this the other week when we were speaking with her on here. I've been super passionate about Zoom and online things. The last few months I've cut back a little bit, because obviously where we are here, everyone needs to be in studio just for the studio's sake and everything as well. So I haven't been doing really anything online lately, but I think stepping forward, it's really good for people to have a mix of both. To understand that if you can't get some work or life, or you just can't step out into the world and be around people, because that's completely fair enough. If you can't go into a class with 20 people, don't. Sometimes it's better just to not. But you can still get the same benefits at home doing the same thing that you were going to do anyway. So I think it's, with yoga especially, I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to do.
I know with coaching, I think what's been beautiful online is that it becomes an integrated part of somebody's day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's almost normalized in a way. It's become a thing that we include within our schedule. It's not an added extra that we're putting, on top of the day.
Yeah.
So I think that's opened up the door for many people to just integrate the support that they need as part of the day that they are experiencing.
Yes.
Rather than bookending it.
Yep, I understand.
So I feel like that's really good. And interestingly, I think when you can't feel comfortable in the space that you exist in or live in for whatever reason, I think that's a little knock from the universe to say, well, you're noticing that this space isn't, holding vibrational energy that you're enjoying during yoga.
Yes.
Because you expect to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
But just because you're not feeling yoga doesn't mean the noise or the clutter of your, surroundings isn't impacting.
Yeah,
So I think, if you can't settle and you can't, I don't know, whatever you're trying to do, meditate in your own space because, oh my God, it just feels loud, it feels cluttered, it feels uncomfortable. You're existing in that space.
That's where you live.
That's where you live.
Yeah.
Right? So it gives us just, I don't know, these little windows of opportunity, I think, when we realize that our space isn't the sanctuary that it needs to be for us. Our homes aren't actually holding us. There's been a lot of insights, I think, in the last 2 years that people would never have made had we not been stuck within the four walls of our own experience and our own existence. That I think it's been a really powerful shift for all of us.
Like, literally, the amount of people I speak to that just have tried to run away from the last 2 years. It's like, if you can't be like okay within yourself with where you are and work that out, running away to another country as soon as borders open, I know I say that all the time, but I'm not trying to run away. I'm not.
There's a little voice in my head going, I've heard that
Exactly
that.
No, but like, if you like, no, I'm not running away.
No, joking.
But that whole idea of people just wanting to escape, like the escapism of, I'll just go to another country, my problems won't follow me there. It's like, yeah, but you still come back to that. Like it will follow you wherever you go unless you go deep inwards to actually solve, like, what is it that's actually going on internally.
I love this as a segue into a new conversation. Unless you decide to close that chapter and not go back, which is a possibility, which is something that I experienced within my own life. Sometimes we're told, like, don't run away from things, sort things out, work on things. And sometimes the best choice that we can make for ourselves is to put the full stop at the end of that story.
When my ex-partner and I were separating, we were both very comfortable in our decision. And it was a shock for everybody because they were like, you're so good, and we're just like, the easy things didn't feel super easy for us anymore. And we both still love each other incredibly. I speak to her nearly every day still. But I remember Mum and Dad being like, can't you work on this? And it's like, I just don't think that's the point. I think that whole conversation in a lot of places is redundant. Like, if it doesn't feel good, don't put that full stop at the end and have a good relationship with each other in a new way. That doesn't exist the same. Close the door like what you just said, close the door, and then you can step into something new together. Have that opportunity. Don't beat it into the ground until you can never face each other again. So I think it all just depends on the meaning that we're bringing to things and the choices that we're making, and ultimately we get to choose how it's going to feel. Running away can be running away, and it can feel like we're moving away from something, or it can be liberation. Complete liberation and complete freedom. How long ago did you move down here? Do you know what? In 2 days, I've just realised Facebook Memories has shown me. I noticed it today. 5 years ago. This is random. Did you start boxing in Geelong or before that? Because both of you, have you ever fought each other? Have you ever sparred each other?
No, we've held pads for each other, and we've both beat the shit out of the pads.
What the hell? I remember when we first to Geelong, and we're like, the training room, Lance is looking at the training room, like, this looks really cool. I remember watching you, and I was like, who the hell is this woman? It's just very strong. Boxing transformed my life. Boxing revealed to me my own strength, my own resilience, the grit, the grace, all of the things that I needed to activate within myself to be a woman that made powerful choices. Amazing. I discovered in the gym in front of a boxing bag.
I completely agree with that wholeheartedly, because it was when boxing was introduced into my life, everything started to shift. What is it? I actually think it's almost like the somatic experience that having in front of the bag. I really do. And people roll their eyes at me, but I actually think it's a complete spiritual experience that you're having. You are bringing full force to something that is offering you a place that is stable, that is safe, in a context that it is completely appropriate to just let everything that you are experiencing within you be released. In a way that is a little messy in the best kind of way.
you know, and obviously as your fitness improves and your skill level improves, there's a level of confidence that you build within yourself when you see like, wow, boxing is a thing that you can actually make really fast progress in, and I think that's what makes it such an addictive thing for people. And it's also not very competitive because what the person on the bag next to me is doing actually is never even going to be noticed by me. You're so doing your own thing. So it just becomes this holy space and place for you to let all the parts of you that are a little bit wobbly have a place to be directed.
Yes. I find things like that so interesting, where you have to, it's like the high risk for high reward type thing. Like even if you're on a bag, because you can really hurt your wrists, you can really hurt yourself if you're not fully present, but you're right, that release and that whatever the hell you were releasing by throwing that punch, even if you don't think you are, your body's like, oh God, finally move me. Thank you. Yes, go. It directs all. I used to get something very similar. It's really funny. I'm actually not too. We haven't been boxing for ages, but I went boxing a couple of times with Mon. I was okay by the end of the second time. You're good. Thank you. I went to when I was managing a studio up in Melbourne, in Balaclava, upstate up there. I went to this boxing gym down the road, and Lance and I went, and she's been boxing since she was a kid. Her grandfather used to show her, used to do pads with her, and I went, and the owner was like, I couldn't even. It was really embarrassing. So there was a group of like 22 people, and he spent the whole session with me. And he was just like, what can't you get?
It's your left, this is
and
your right.
And I was like, because I used to get this from drumming.
Yeah.
Being a drummer, because it's your whole body. And you just hammer, like the release you get at the end of drumming, you're just like, I could do a backflip.
Yes.
And I'd have no idea how to do one. And I've always found boxing and other fighting as well, but boxing just seems to have that repetitive thud, the same as what drumming does. If you're hitting a drum over and over again, I've always found it really interesting because you have to, when your whole body's involved like that, like you said, it becomes this experience where you move through so much. We did Cold and Conscious on the weekend. Mon was there cooking the cacao. It was beautiful. Mon was I've never seen her this stressed before.
Do you know what? I said to him, this is completely off topic, but high stress situations, I thrive in it. I'm like, yeah, sweet. You give me something small to do like that. I was literally like, so how do I turn the gas burner on? So how long do I stir it for? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm freaking out and I don't know why. Same thing happened with the bike ride from Echuca to Geelong. James is like, are you worried? I'm like, the thing I'm most worried about is getting the bike on the train to Echuca. That's it. Not the fact that I haven't tried the shoes on with the bike. Not the fact that we're about to ride 256 Ks in one day. Getting the bike, and I'm like, why do I do that? Why do I stress over the little things, but the big things have zero? I'm just like, yeah, cool, I'll handle it. I was freaking out.
We'll get somebody on next week, and you two can work that out together.
Great, can't wait to work through this.
But one of the ladies came in this morning, taught at 0 Point this morning, and she was talking about talk therapy, and she actually does that. That's her profession. She's like, I'm not trying to put myself out of a job, but she's like, I just feel like there needs to be more. I'm like, I couldn't agree more. Like, you've got your body, you've got your emotional body, your soul, you've got all these different aspects. If you're only talking to the mind, how are you going to ever move through anything? And the Sunday was incredible. Like, everyone got up, we were all crying, they were all grabbing me going, I just didn't know this is what we were going to be doing, because we do connection, we have a conversational piece, so we speak to one another, then the meditation, the eye gazing, we do eye gazing. Then we do a meditation, which is it's all around the breath, just lengthening out and just exploring the different depths of yourself. And then you do the breath work and you hold hands at the end, and it's just beautiful, but it involves everything. Then you get in the eye, so it's like you're talking, you're connecting in a time where it's really hard to connect, I think. It's got the breathing becomes a huge part of the body because you're breathing so rigorously in parts. But it was really interesting. She said that to me this morning. She's like, breath work releases so much. I want to be able to do this. And I just stood there and thought, I was like, there are so many things that releases so much from your body. There is like boxing is an incredible...
Do you know, I think the identification with the one thing that works is a real disservice to most humans. And people, I guess we're designed to want to connect and have community. So we find a group of people who are doing something that we can also do, and we can be like, this is the box that I feel comfortable in, this is where I exist. And I think when we do that, when we think we have found the answer, the key, the one thing that's going to help us, support us, and help everybody that we know, we limit ourselves in so many ways. And so I would agree, like talk therapy has its place. Breathwork, meditation, that whole space has its place. Movement has its place. And we have to allow ourselves to be in the experience of all of it. And to not just say, like, people will take on identifications as things that have nothing to do with them. So people will say, oh, are you a boxer? No, I do boxing.
But I can punch the hell out of a bag.
Do you know what I mean? But in no way is my identity wrapped up this thing that I do. And I think for so many people, when you don't have a sense of self and awareness of what that actually means when we speak of the self and feel into the self, we're looking for easy things to kind of like masks to put on to say this is who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
you go. No, go for it.
I had such a I think I've spoken to you about this. I personally had such a massive issue with people labeling me a coach. Like, people would be like, oh, so you do one-on-one coaching sessions? I'm like, absolutely not. And they're like, oh, but that's what you do. You're like a mindset coach. I'm like, I am not. And they'd be like, what do you mean? And I literally would sit there and I'm like, why do I have so much resistance towards this label? And when I was thinking about it, I was like, I actually don't want to fix people's problems. Like, I know coaches don't do that. Some coaches want to do that. But I was like, I actually do not want to hold anyone's hand through anything. That resistance piece for me was just like, it's like I almost not allow myself, but I would be so afraid of falling back into the caregiver role, which is something that I fought so hard to like move away from, because that's what I did for such a long period of life, that it was almost like this fear of dropping back into a coaching thing and then being like, someone coming to me being like, I've got this problem, and then me telling myself like, I can fix it. I know how to fix it. Here's the solve. Here's the one thing that's going to fix that. And so I'd be like, no, I'm not. That labeling piece for me, I've realized as of late especially, is so heavy, because I'm like, I don't want anything being attached to my identity like that.
And sometimes it's just a reframe of labels as well. Like, I think coaching, I've been a coach for almost 15 years in different contexts now, right? And I think for me, at one point, I can honestly say I felt a lot of pressure that the people that I supported had to have a certain outcome occur, or they had to achieve a certain thing, or experience a certain thing. So I would feel a lot of pressure as the coach to get them that thing. And I've realized now the difference in the way that I feel as a coach is that I no longer feel pressure, but I still carry a lot of responsibility. But the distinction between pressure and responsibility is really different. So I'm completely responsible for who I am and what I activate within myself, and the energy that I bring, and the way that I listen, and the way that I make sure that I'm an open channel and I'm actually hearing you. There's all of that responsibility, but there's no pressure I ever feel to get somebody to a certain point, or make them see it in a certain way, or make them feel a certain way. And that distinction, I think, takes time to just allow to kind of like drop into you, to have that clarity within you and that confidence, I think, too. And I think sometimes it just takes a little while to be in the coaching space to have that kind of confidence to...
No, we keep going.
To have that confidence to not feel like... I think it's no fault of anyone, because initially when we start anything, we want results. We want to be able to say, this is what I do. And so we want the people that we're supporting to do really well. And so we feel pressure for a certain outcome, and that's when we don't have boundaries. That's when we give too much. That's when we make it our work to actually, allow them to achieve the thing that they're hoping to experience for themselves. If you can reframe and realize like there is no sense of pressure when you coach somebody, it feels different.
Yeah, I think that applies to everything. Like, with teaching, it's the same thing. I get so scared when I started. It's like, fuck, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, make sure I have a good workout, the music's got to be great. And I'm just like, no, I've just got to have a good time and do something that I believe in. And there's been, like, I don't teach Pilates at all anymore, and that was the whole conversation with them. I was like, this just isn't for me anymore. But like, do you find, because I've noticed with teaching, actually, so I was with this yoga teacher, I did a class, her name's actually Emma West. I've met so many Wests in the last year.
You're a Kanye fan?
Yeah, he's my third cousin on my dad's side.
You wish.
He is. No, imagine.
I don't know if
but I said to her one day, she was looking at doing her Pilates teacher training, and she's like, I don't know if I'm just doing it to be able to put another notch on the board to be able to make money. And I was like, and she didn't end up doing it. And I was like, it's too important to, I said, movement and having that being in that space with people is too important not to want to do it. And she just looked at me and she goes, Stefan, everything is too important to not want to do it. And I was like, oh my God. Like, obviously the thing that you find most valuable at that point in your life is you're just going to think that it's the most valuable thing.
Sure.
So you're like, this is too important. You're with people and rah. I used to be a plumber. I know heaps of plumbers that fucking love their job.
Yeah.
That they're like, I need to do this. I know plumbers that do not, that hurt themselves, that don't do a good job for people's houses. That it becomes this really dangerous thing because then, you know, you're dealing with gas, you're dealing with water. It can be really detrimental for people. I've gotten a little bit off topic, but I was going to, what my point was, with teaching, I felt the exact same thing. With music, that feeling of pressure. And then it's not until I found that you do it for yourself and for an actual, like you said, bringing it back into yourself and having that responsibility not be on the external outcomes of another human being, but be just on you feeling good in your role as what you're standing in. And I think that is what is applicable to everything because, I
was going to say the next level, I think, to that and where I'm kind of at now is that I realize that everything that I feel compelled to do, everything that I dedicate and devote myself to, everything that I feel responsible, I'm being moved to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a goal that I write down for myself.
Yeah.
It's not a task list that I'm moving through. It's that I literally feel moved.
Yes.
You know? And
Yeah,
so I
do.
will have
really
this
do.
intuitive feeling like, go live on Instagram now. Say this. Talk about this.
Yeah.
Write this. Go here. No, that's not for you. I'm being moved.
Yeah.
And it feels not effortless because it's still sometimes I have to wrestle with it and I have to say, why this hard? This feels scary. I'm not sure. But the momentum is there and I don't have to motivate myself in any way anymore.
Yes, that's literally, I think you and I started this topic, or you said it to me, someone said it to me, the whole motivation, inspiration piece, I constantly have to feel motivated and motivated to do something. It's like, if that's a constant, like you constantly have to dig just to move somewhere, maybe just question, like raise the question to yourself, do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
Is this actually in my best interest? Is this serving a real purpose for me? We just go, and it's like, this full force that we're trying to force just into something that we maybe don't want to do. But it's not even just like, we don't stop to ask ourselves, is this it? Like, is this what I want? Or is it because the collective around me is telling me this is what you should be doing? Just go for it. So that inspiration piece and the momentum, I love the word momentum because that's what I feel. Like everything I do, I have such clarity around why I'm doing it. Motivation, sometimes, I do need a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, but it's not this like resistance and force that's constantly like, fuck, go to the gym at 4 a.m.
Yes.
Go and do this and this and this. It's like, I'm just in the flow of it. Like I'm doing it because I'm inspired by the thing that I'm walking towards. Even if I sometimes don't have a clear image of what that thing is, but the feeling's there, the movement in the direction is there, feels right, so I'm going to go there.
Brings us right back to what I said at the beginning. Sometimes the motivation is tied to the story of like pain and overcoming, and we celebrate ourselves for being the person that is motivated because we're told that the story of overcoming is the hero's journey. And we all want to feel like a hero, right? That's how we're kind of raised to think like you have to achieve something momentous, and it's going to mean that you're going to have struggle and suffering because that's what life is. And you better be ready to work hard, and you better earn everything that you think you are worthy of. And there's a complete other way of being that I think, particularly in our culture, in our communities, we've never even been exposed to. And when you just feel into there being another way of being and your curiosity, that opens up, there's no way of kind of turning your back to that feeling and that awareness that it actually doesn't have to be like this. And if I allow myself to believe that I am that necessary, that important, that my life, my existence is that purpose field, that I will be moved if I just stop allowing myself to move with the crowd and the flow and be almost directionless and marching through life, and I just sit and I allow the pause and I allow myself to open and I allow myself to listen. Might I hear what is meant for me?
Yes.
You know, but that feels and that looks different because everybody wants to know what's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, what are you doing, what are you mastering, what's next, and we feel like we have to be in this perpetual state of productivity that actually gets us nowhere.
No. Priority action. What's your Every morning I wake up and I say, what is my priority action task? And then I just wait for the day to see what comes up. Works. Andrew's 7 hours. But because the whole thing was, all right, I've got 3 months to complete a task in which I'm wanting to do that will require 3, 6, maybe 12 months. You're going to get there a hell of a lot quicker if you just do the priority to action task for that thing every day. It'll be different. It might just be lay on the couch for the day, right? It might be work really hard for the entire day because it feels good. It might be half of that, whatever it is, but you're going to get it done. What might take you 6 months, you might get it done in 3 months, but the catch is you're probably doing half as much as you think you need to. I'm the worst. I'm like a fucking crazy person running around. I'm a lot better than I was, and I'm working on this still. Rest has always just been a really hard thing for me to actually. It's ironic because I'm like, meditate. But that's why I'm so passionate about these things, because those are the things that have made such a dramatic impact on my life. But I hate it. Like our friends the other week, Adele and Shane the other week. Hey, Adele and Shane, if you listen. Adele and Shane the other week. No, I have nothing but beautiful things to say about Adele and Shane. They invited me to go out for lunch. I said no, and Adele looked at me and she's like, oh, you're probably busy. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, and admittedly, the last 6 months even, all the things, I'm only doing what I love doing. So even if I am busy from the outside in, I'm doing what I love, and I'm I'm constantly within that balance of, maybe went over the edge this week too. No, I'm feeling pretty good. But it was really, I hated that feeling so much, and I was like, maybe I should go for lunch. And I said to Shane, I was like, I want to come for lunch today. And I did. And it was so funny because that was the thing that actually felt right to me. It was funny that that's how it was dressed. I did that, and I still did all the other things that I felt good for the day. And I laughed at the end of the day, and I was like, you thought that you didn't have time for connection. That's what it was. I added that connection, and that's what I needed for the day. And then everything else happened seamlessly. Yes. So it's just funny, like day to day, what I'm experiencing at the moment is it's really funny that some days, like yesterday, I played and sung for 7 hours. We did pre-production all day in Melbourne. I was cooked at the end of the day. God, I felt good. And then another day, I might do that for 30 minutes, or 15 minutes. Yes. And they're just as productive. They just look different. Yes. Do you know?
Yes. And I think a big shift happens when we realize that sometimes we're trying to achieve things or do things because we want to feel a certain way. So we attach an outcome or something that we experience to the feeling. But in order for us to stay in the slipstream of the momentum that we want to feel, we need to realize that we get to feel the way we would feel, that we anticipate we would feel when we achieve the thing, by doing things that actually have nothing to do with the big goal that we have set.
Yes. Yep.
Right? So an example that I can give is a lot of the time people think that they need to go on a holiday, they need to be overseas, they need to be somewhere to experience certain feelings of relaxation or pleasure or whatever it is. And lockdowns here in Victoria actually gave me a beautiful opportunity to realize that very things that I enjoy when I go and indulge island life could be experienced within my backyard. Because I felt this longing to be overseas, and we weren't going anywhere. Borders were shut. And so I had to have some very frank conversations with myself that you can either choose to suffer for every day, because the answer is no, you can't go. Or you can decide to feel differently about this. And with that, and I thought for myself, what is it that I want to feel? What do I want to experience? It was simple things. Yeah. Sunshine, slow coffee, slow mornings in bed, a walk. And I realized I can do all of that right now. There's actually nothing stopping me from generating the feelings that I would experience here.
Yes.
And from that place, then we go through the day and we move through our lives feeling the way that we want to feel. And you can imagine what you become a vibrational match for when you start like that. When we're in constant pursuit of experiencing or achieving or creating something, we're in an energy that ultimately is not going to be sustainable and it's not going to be enjoyable. So we'll always get to a certain point and then we'll be tired, fed up, exhausted, sick of having to start ourselves like a lawnmower every day, and we stop, right? So it really is in understanding that you have to and you can feel the way you think you want to feel when you achieve the thing. Here and now.
And it's a choice, like you said. It all
choice.
comes back down to the choice that you make every single day
And
what you
then
tell yourself.
We get to work having fun, cultivating the different realities, the different things that will support us in doing that. We don't just have to sit there and be like, fucking please feel with desire. We don't have to like, please, like, how do I do it, right? We take classes, we read books, we listen to music, we eat foods, we do whatever we need to do in order to kind of generate those feelings within us. But don't always have to think it's about something that we have to do, achieve, be seen to do. All of that, something bigger outside of ourselves. It can all be like the experience that we're cultivating within us.
Do you have like, because I know you guide people through this now as coaching, do you have like go-to things for yourself that you do day to day? Like what does that look like?
She's like, queen.
So tell me about it, I want to know.
Do you know, it's a very interesting question, and I always hesitate to answer the question because I never want somebody to feel like there is a checklist of things that we should be doing every day.
100% agree.
So I think the number one thing that I do for myself is listen to myself and be in conversation with myself and tune into my own voice and pay attention to the sensations in my body and just see what I can allow for myself.
Yeah. I know this is true for me. It took me, because I'm very much like that now too, and I'm like, what do I need today? And I completely let go of my morning routine because I know it just looks different. I've got one thing that I have to do every day for this time period that is really important to me, and that can happen at midnight. It can happen at 6 a.m. It can happen at lunchtime, whatever it is. But it took me, I always find it funny because I often wonder what other people are like, because it took me having a really strict morning routine, then getting rid of it completely, then bringing one thing back in, then being like, that doesn't work at this time of life anymore, then bringing maybe breath work in, then being like, meditation has to happen. Like, it was just years and years of, I'll put that in, I'll take it out, that might work now, that might not. And I think that long time period of me doing that really helped me understand me better, because what I thought were failures throughout those time periods of me being like, fucked it up again, I missed a day, was actually my body being like, I don't want to do that today, but I just didn't understand that that's what it was telling me. So then when I finally got to the point where I was like, I can actually hear you now, my list of tools was, or my belt full of tools was huge. I was like, oh fuck, I'll do this today. This is epic. Okay, I'll do both of these, and then maybe tomorrow I'll look at it a little bit differently. Was that similar to you, or what?
Yes,
how did that?
1,000,000%. I think I know the things that work for me, and I can activate it really quickly. So I think there's power to that. But I think the big shift for me was in understanding it was all an exploration, not necessarily of like modalities or tools, but what I was trying to feel.
Yes, 100%.
And how it was I actually want to feel. And so for me, it's like, that's why there's no kind of like chronological thing that I go through. For me, my morning can be over and done within 5 minutes, or it could take me 2 hours. It depends on, am I in the state that I accept as what I want to experience for myself, as myself, and 100%. As a mum, and as a wife, and as a leader within the community. And so I think for many years, I didn't quite know what I wanted to feel. I thought maybe I needed to be productive, ambitious, resilient, and now it's more about, I thought it was surrender, and that felt a little bit closed, and now I'm at a place that for me is like activating trust. That's where I'm at. That's not necessarily what everybody needs to feel, but for me, my mornings are out when I feel completely in a state of just like trust and allowing, and I'm open to the guidance that I trust is available for me. Then I move.
100%. No, I think for me, I was 100%. I went through a very similar thing. Mine was running away from my emotions. I didn't realize it. I was like, these things make me feel better, when I was really like, stop feeling. Like, I had no idea I was doing that. And then that's really interesting. I've never heard it described the way that you just described it. I think I would be very similar in that sense, because it shifted from that to me just being like, I trust what I'm feeling is what I need to feel today. And that's cool. One of these things might help me sit just within myself a little bit more comfortably, but I don't want to push the thing away anymore. If I'm sad, that's okay. Let's cry a little bit. If I'm angry, I'll be pissed off or whatever. Still struggle to like just sit within those things, but I'm not utilizing anything to run away from. It's more of a to deepen my understanding of myself at any possibility that I can.
Yeah.
Because through lots of error, lots of trial, same as everyone, obviously the more you push those things away, the harder they punch you in the chin when they come back.
The other thing I would say, yes. The other thing I would say is that I think for a lot of people, they think what we're doing when we're rising in today is to make ourselves like feel better, and it's this very like, it's all about me, you know. And I think when you can understand that your daily practice, whatever that looks like, it's not even about you, it's about the responsibility you are taking, how you are showing up, how you are impacting other people, the energy that you're bringing, all of that.
Yeah.
For me now, if I don't take care of myself and I don't get into that state before I interact closely with my husband and my son, well, that's selfish. I know there's some very crunchy parts of me that can arise if I don't tend to them, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't do all the things that I have to do in order to feel the way that I want to feel before I move into the day. I'm giving them less than they deserve.
Yeah.
And so for me, the practice and the being and everything that I do, ultimately it's so that I can feel that I'm a woman who is living life, and I accept that that means there's highs and there's lows. But before I actually go out into the world, I have a responsibility to take care of my shit.
That's really beautiful. I obviously don't have, I was going to say a husband or a wife or a child. So that's real.
But I'm sure as a practitioner, as a teacher, there's certain things you do before you stand in front of a group of people where possible, and when we're not perfect people, and there are days that I get it wrong and days that my shit leaks out over everybody. So I'm not saying I'm walking through perfectly, but the intention is there.
Lena just hovered into the
literally. My husband probably has a very different story to tell. But you know, the intention is there.
Yeah, I have I have a little list of things that I do and it is from that point of view. It's like, this is not for me. This is for everybody that's stepping foot in here. And I feel like I have that responsibility because everyone's bringing their shit when they come in. Rightfully so. They're coming in. They've got to fucking come in. That's great. Come in. I don't care how you come in, but it's my responsibility to make sure this space is safe enough and that I make sure that it's that way so nobody leaves with somebody else's shit. You know, nobody gets dragged down because the person next to them had a really bad day. They can both come in, work. One of my things is to set the room up so that everybody can come in for their own self-exploration, because it's like you have that opportunity to come in and just work out. So it's not about, like you said, changing anything to feel better. It might just be exploring that you feel like shit today. You can't, maybe you could touch your toes yesterday, you can't yesterday and you can't today. Maybe you could do a shape that you couldn't do 2 days ago, and that's great. But I was speaking to Sally about that the other week, that responsibility. I had no idea, just even going from the Pilates space into, I suppose you probably feel this with classes, and then compared to coaching is, again, on top of what I'm talking about, but just shifting from Pilates to yoga was enormous for me. I remember it showing up being like, what the fuck? Like, this is way more intense.
Yeah, right.
And in a beautiful way, it really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And it didn't change anything for my want to be there or anything like that. I was just like, I have a responsibility here. Yeah. Cool. What do I need to do to make sure that I don't fall below a standard in which people will trust me and I will trust myself? Yeah,
And a lot of times I think people, as they are learning and growing within themselves, they look to people who are positioning themselves as the leaders, the guides, the teachers, and they want to calibrate to our energy. So it's our responsibility to calibrate our own energy so that we have something for them to kind of be supported by.
Yeah.
So if I'm teaching a boxing class, for example, who I show up as a coach in a boxing class is very different to who I show up as in a coaching session.
Of course, definitely. Yeah.
Right? And so it's the awareness of our ability to choose what we're activating in ourselves, what we're feeling, what we're believing, what we are affirming, and what is required of us.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you go through your life just reacting and responding and making everything about me, and this is my experience, so this is what you get of me today, I don't know. I don't feel like we're being of service, and I've devoted myself to a life of service in a way that serves my family and my community right now. So everything I do, it's not about me right now.
Yeah.
And there is time for that. There is definitely time for that, and I take the time for that when I need it, and I have very strong boundaries. Mon will be able to tell you, like, you can't call me. I don't answer. It's not even a joke.
No, you don't call her with the phone number. Like,
I don't answer. I don't answer unless it is my son's daycare or my mum. When I'm at home, I don't want to talk to you. If you've got something important, put it in writing. I'll see it. I get to decide.
Yeah.
You know, and people look at me like that's selfish, that's mean.
No, it's not.
I get, it might be. I choose that for myself. I'm not open available to people deciding for me where my focus is going to go, how I'm going to feel, all of that. I have very, very, very strong boundaries that protect the energy that I work
It's
so hard.
It's so healthy though. I learned that lesson the hard way with like YouTube comments.
Yes.
Like I would sit there for hours and hours feeling like these people are showing up to support me. I have to reply as soon as they hit send. As soon as I say I have to reply, I would waste like hours in my morning on the back foot because I was sitting there replying to everybody, and I was like, there's going to come a point where I'm not going to be able to do this because there's going to be too many comments, which right now, sorry if I haven't replied to your comments. Like there's literally 200 comments I haven't replied to, and I'm like, I have so much shit on at the moment.
Yes.
I actually can't, because it's just, I know how much it's going to drain me. And if I'm going to give you my time, you're going to get 100% of my time.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation so many times. Like, I have really, really noticed in the last, 5 or 6 months, the emotional bandwidth that I have with people is, I thought it was small. It's fucking tiny. It is so small. But what I realized was, when I am with someone, I want to focus on you 110%.
Mm-hmm.
You will have that from me. That takes a lot of energy from me. Like, to give someone 100% focus where you're listening to them and you're actually really, really listening to what they have to say, not like in your own head thinking of other things. That's really for me personally, really tiring. Yeah. So you know me, I used to see like 7 people on a Saturday because I was like, oh, I've got to cram them all in on a Saturday.
You used to see a lot of people.
Yeah, I would see so many people because I felt like I owed them my time because I haven't seen them. They've supported me. This. Yep, I'll go for a coffee with you. That 30-minute coffee turned into 2 hours. Oh, I'm on to the next. And then when I get home, my mum be like, what did you do today? Why are you so tired for? I'm like, I've just been having coffees all day with people. Yeah. She's like, what? So
I'm wired.
Literally. But you can account for that. But it got to this point where I was like, why am I so depleted? I am dishing out my energy and time to way too many people. And it was a really big thing for me to just say no to people.
So do you think now it's not about your bandwidth, it's like you're just no longer willing to
now it definitely is. Now I'm just like, nope. Yeah. And it's no without justification.
Yes.
It's like, no. And there was this like time frame where people would be like, no, like, but why? And then I would give them an answer. Now it's just like, no. And everyone just goes, oh yeah, she's busy. That's okay. We'll catch her time. And then I realized I don't lose my friends because I say no. They still keep asking me. Yeah. They still love me. Like nothing bad actually happened. You and I are a perfect example. Yeah. Your no's, I'm like, okay. It's not like, oh, fucking, again, she's did like, you know.
Because we've had this conversation many times. We respect the fact that we're not telling white lies to each other about why we can't.
Yes.
There's always this little kind of like justification, rationalization bullshit that is sprinkled over when we're not able to just activate a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a sacred no. It's beautiful.
Literally.
No.
It's healthy as well for friendships, partner, all of it.
Yeah.
Like, if I just can't show up, I'm not going. You don't want a half-assed mom.
Yes.
You do not want that.
Yes.
Sorry.
Are you okay?
I've done this twice now.
Oh, God. Intermission.
I do that so often. No, I just went down the wrong hole.
You know, and being able to activate a no is something I've only learned in the last 5 years. And only in relationship with my husband now, because he's strong enough to handle a no. He receives me without taking what I want and what I need as a reflection on him.
Yeah.
So I can activate a no because he doesn't take my no personally.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to do something, he doesn't morph it into a story about me not wanting to do something with him or me not wanting to spend time with him. He's stable within himself to just accept the no. And to have that experience was like, it was mind-blowing at first.
What's it like running a business together? Like,
Because we have clear communication.
Yeah.
It is easy.
Yeah.
Because we have clear communication, because we hold our relationship as sacred, we have some kind of unspoken ground rules around the way business is going to work for us.
Yeah.
So we're very specific about when we're working in the business together, what that looks like, even where we sit, even what we're doing. Like we know we're working now. we don't have a safe word, but it's almost like if it starts to feel a certain way, we notice a certain energy. If we're starting to be short with each other, we will pull the pin on whatever we're working on because we value the relationship more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've decided if we ever felt like the business was taking from our relationship, we would rather sacrifice the business, work out how the hell to make money after that and still have each other than to prioritize the business. And I mean, I've learned this in my life the hard way because I did it the other way for a long time. And also I think we are in a relationship that is one that respects the individual. So we work together, but we don't see the business as a reflection of us as a couple, and even within relationship we don't see our relationship as this like unified reflection. We're two individuals that continue to choose each other, and we continue to choose to work together.
Yes.
You know,
that's beautiful.
so I think that's why people say like, how is it to work together? For me, I can speak for myself, I can't speak for him. It's easy.
Steve's in next week, isn't he?
Yeah. Steve, my husband, is like the funniest.
I've only met him once, and not for long. I was in the van.
I am as long-winded as I am. Is as short and succinct as he is.
Really?
Yes.
So because I know that for anybody that doesn't know, you guys have the training room.
We do.
In North
We've got
Geelong,
the training room in Geelong. Yes, a boxing gym, and Steve, my husband, is a 2-time world champion kickboxer.
Yeah, I've watched a few of his things. He was wild.
Yeah.
It's so funny when he talks about these stories. I've heard them 5 fucking dozen times, and he still like tells me as if it's the first time he's telling me. I love it.
Yeah.
But he was like the person that taught me no.
Yes.
Because I'd say something and I'd be like, you know, before training or whatnot, he'd ask me about life and I'd tell him what's going on. And then he'd be like, why don't you just say no? I'm like, well, I am. He's like, no, you're giving them a reason to like, you're giving them a reason. Just say no. And I was like, oh, you can do that? Since when?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love how he's just cut through. He's just like, nope.
Yes.
Or yep.
Yes.
That's it. There's no fucking grey like.
And in that, you see how loving and kind it is to be received and in communication with someone that you trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Because he says only what he means.
Yes. Yeah.
You never have to second guess him. And I think for me, I realised that radical level of just honesty and transparency felt like the most loving thing I had ever experienced. And so that's what I try and offer to people now, like sacred no, sacred yes. I'm never going to bullshit you. I'm never going to, you know, tiptoe around what I feel or what I'm going to say. I'm going to deliver it. We call it Stone Cold. That was his fight name, Stone Cold Steve Moxon. I'm going to be stone cold about everything so that you receive the truth of what I'm saying, not some kind of, I don't know, version of what I hope you kind of read between the lines, and then you probably won't, and then we're actually not in communication anymore. We're having different conversations, you know?
And I think it's that consistency piece of like when you show up as who you say you are, and that's a constant thing, people won't second guess you. And like I always think like with so much uncertainty, not just in like current climate and everything that's happening, but like people crave that consistency in a person. Like whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friend, like knowing who you're gonna get. We had this conversation the other day. When you meet someone or you're friends with someone and it's like on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're this person, and on a Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, you get someone completely different. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like that, I just think it's critical across every relationship you ever have with anybody.
It's an interesting thing. The silly story that I have is that when I had first moved to Geelong 5 years ago, I'm from New South Wales. We don't follow the AFL. I know nothing about AFL. Right? I literally don't know. And it was maybe an AFL grand final, something like that. And we'd been invited by one of his friends to go to this barbecue and watch the grand final. And we were driving there, and I was about to have to spend like a couple of hours with a group of people I didn't know, watching a sport I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And there was no part of me that desired to like put myself into that experience. And we're in the car driving there, and I looked at him and I said, I don't think I want to come. And he said, no. And I said, do you think you can drop me at Westfields? I think I just really want to walk around. It was a Sunday. I think I just want to walk around the shops. And he was like, okay. And I kind of had this moment. There was no pushback. There was no, oh, come on. There was no, oh, but what are they going to say? There was none of that. He was like, okay. and he went and did his thing because that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go along and sit there a bit resentful, a bit anxious, a bit meek, you know, and I got to just do my thing. And it was just this moment, this profound moment of, oh my God, I get to express my desires and it can be received. And oh my God, I can activate it in the moment that I want it.
Yeah.
And it sounds so silly.
It doesn't at all.
Right? But
No.
yeah, I had been in relationship with everybody that I had ever known in my
everyone
life.
can relate to
Right.
exactly what you just said.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it does take being in relationship with someone that can hold that for you.
Yeah. I wonder. So I thought the whole conversation about compromise.
Yes.
I just don't think compromise is what people think. Like, we're
Yes.
taught in relationships to, you have to sacrifice a lot for that person. You know, you've got to, you have to give up your Sundays to go do what they want to do. You have to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And that's not, why does that look selfish?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It takes people like yourself talking about real, open, honest relationships
Yes.
and being like, hey, we're actually just doing this, and it's not weird, it's not anything, we don't love it, we actually love each other a hell of a lot more because the time that we spend together is incredible.
Yes.
Because we both feel fulfilled.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yes. And you know, there is always parts of like he's very into woodwork and carpentry. I have to sit there and listen
So
to
Steve built a sauna.
Yes.
When you meet him,
Oh,
don't ask him about
it.
it.
Don't ask about
I really want to know about this sauna though.
It's pretty cool.
It's cool, but fuck, I'm so glad
So
he finished it.
there is obviously time and place for us to feign interest in something that we genuinely don't care about because we can see that it's like making the person that we love come alive. But I think, when you just start to get into the slippery slope of feeling like you are obligated to be a certain way or show up because you are in relationship and that's what you do in relationship, pretty soon your relationship doesn't even reflect who you are or what you want and what you desire. And I think if we can't confidently activate a no with the people closest to us, we've got no chance in asserting boundaries in the workplace or with friends or anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a really important thing and it's something we can definitely relearn and it's something that you can do in relationship if you both actively decide to consciously be in communication in a way that serves you both. You know?
All this shit, like, it doesn't feel good at first, right? It's like, oh, I don't know if we're out.
Yes.
What if, like what you said, what if they're like,
yes,
what are they going to say? That made me
Yes.
laugh because there's the fear of others is just so rife in so many things. But, like it's not going to feel like your truth does, like it feels good, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to feel good to speak it for the first time. All the time, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like a
for sure.
learned
It
thing.
can feel really scary, but I think the more, and it sounds so cliche, but the more that you develop that relationship with yourself, and you understand sovereignty as a way of being, not just like a buzzword, and you reclaim your ability to be an individual, and you're not coming to a relationship as this thing that you need. It's just something that you get to enjoy and that you get to bring love to. I think my relationship with my husband now is so beautiful, so sacred, so much fun, because we will both openly say to anybody that asks, but I would leave him if it didn't serve me anymore.
Yes.
We say it to each other.
Yeah.
It's a known fact between us that we both have to show up and serve the relationship, or the relationship will not exist. There is no sense of, we're married. There's no, married in Vegas.
Really?
But we did.
Oh, you should have. So, don't you know this story?
No, I don't know any of the stories.
Can I please share this story?
It's your story to tell.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So Steve, I remember it. I actually thought of this the other day. Was it your anniversary? No. Oh, I don't know. It popped into my head, but it was a Saturday at the gym. It was the old gym, 9 a.m. class,
You might
right?
have been organising it around this time, right?
Maybe,
You proposed
yeah.
on Christmas Day.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
So I'm wrapping my hands. I'm about to like start the boxing class. Steve's like lingering around me, like he wants to say something. I'm like, fucking get away! Like, well, give me space. Comes up to me and he's like, no, we start boxing. The round starts. Time is going. Everyone's hitting the bag. I'm hitting the bag, and he just like pops his head around the punching bag and is like, I'm proposing to Lena on Christmas Day. And I was like, and he's like, don't make a scene. I was like, what the you can't just drop that on me in the middle, and I'm like, well, I really want to hug you and say congratulations, but that's going to be fucking weird to stop around and like hug you. And then he asked me, we made a video, because he's like, I really want to propose to her on Christmas Day, and I want to do a video like showing her what we're going to be doing. So he basically organized this whole wedding, didn't tell her, flew her to Vegas.
A week after we proposed.
What?
Or he proposed.
It was literally like, pack your bags, we're leaving.
Yeah.
Flew to Vegas, and we did this cool little stop motion thing with like everything. Organized everything. I was impressed. I was like, you thought about this. Flowers, like wedding dress, hair, makeup, all coming to she just had to show up. I was like, wow, that is incredible.
What?
Yeah, super cool. Super cool experience. So we eloped, essentially. It was just him and I in Vegas. And yeah.
Wow.
A week after he had proposed, I was getting married.
I fully cut you off with what you were saying, but I can't remember what you were saying. I just got really excited because,
don't know.
that was a really good video.
I don't know.
And he even learned Greek.
Are you Greek?
Well, my mum's side of the
Yeah.
family is, and he felt because obviously we were just going to get married ourselves, he proposed on Christmas Day in front of my family because he wanted them to be included.
You thought of everything. I know. Credit to you, Steve.
Yeah. But you know what's really funny, and I don't know if I've even told you this, a couple of weeks before he proposed, he said to me, we're driving in the car, and he said, what would you say if I proposed? Like, he just brought up, and do you know what I said to him? Oh, I'd probably say I have to think about it. The guy has everything organised, he's booked tickets, he's booked everything, and he was just like, oh, okay. And so we had all these conversations about it, and it was a really beautiful thing.
Because you already had, Tyson was around. Yeah, Tyson was around already. Yeah.
We already had our son. We were committed in every sense, but I suppose we had both been previously married, and marriage for me was still something that I was trying to kind of understand within myself and feel safe within and learn how to reframe and redefine. And I really didn't know if it was something that I wanted to do again.
Yeah, sure.
Because it had felt like such a sticky web that I had been stuck in last time. But having kind of like learned that I always had choices, and I made those choices, and nothing had actually kept me stuck except the choices I had made and continued to make for myself, gave me that little bit of freedom. But again, it was a really beautiful thing to be marrying a man that I could look at and say, I am freaking out. And he held my hand, and I wanted to get married. We'd had so many conversations, but in the moment before we got married, he was able to see me and perceive what I was feeling and be there for me and not make it about him necessarily.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you don't want to marry me, I'm not enough. It was, I fully understand everything that you are bringing, everything that you are letting go, everything that you're stepping into through this experience. And so it was a deeply profound moment. It sounds like a Vegas wedding is just like, oh, a Vegas wedding, but it was transformational in every way for me.
You guys have an incredible relationship.
It's a wild story. Like, we knew each other for over 10 years before we got together. And he is my living proof of sometimes in our lives we set intentions for things that we don't even realize we have set intention for, and life will respond. So Steve was the one person. When I met Steve, we were both in quite long-term relationships, and off the cuff, he was the person that I kind of said, oh, if he was ever single, he'd be the one person that I would leave this marriage for. I had said that to friends just in passing, like joking,
Really?
you joke. He was
Yeah.
Hot Steve, you know, the trainer at the boxing gym. And everyone could always see the energy between us and kind of tease us, but it was never anything that either of us really acknowledged because we were in a relationship. But I had said, oh, if he's ever single, I would run. And then the universe opened up this window of opportunity to both of us where we both found ourselves falling out of relationships at the same time. Wow. And I distinctly remember being like, if it's going to happen, I've got to go, and packed my whole life and went. And here I am.
Oh my God. What?
I know, it's wild.
You need to sell the rights to this to some Netflix.
Some sordid story, really.
Nah, just the whole thing together. No, I just love everything that you said about, I just sounds like that your relationship is built on a really strong foundation. And that's really beautiful in this day and age, because listen, I sound like I'm fucking 60. No, I mean, like, there's just, I think as a collective or in Western world, we're really confused, as far as relationships and what they look like and what they're, and because it's going to feel different for everybody, right? Everybody has different needs, but just to simply, like you said, be able to say no and be able to say yes and be able to show up to things that you just want. It sounds like such a simple thing, but everybody just sacrifices so much of themselves because maybe that's what their parents did. And that's the only thing that they've seen, and that's what their grandparents did. And it's just, I think we're stepping into this new age now where most things should probably look different to what they did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think if we can have solid relationships, that changes like, firstly with yourself, 100%. That gets built first. And then to have just as strong relationships with the people around you, changes your own world. It changes everything.
Do you think, I often think sometimes the way we speak about marriage needs to change slightly. I think
couldn't
about
agree more.
The transparency and the conversation around motherhood. We can say in the last, I don't even know how many, maybe just from our mums to us now, mums used to have to speak about motherhood like this picture perfect thing, and I feel like now there's a lot more conversation about the reality of what it is. And I'm hoping that marriage and relationship and even separation and divorce becomes a conversation that we're all more comfortable with having, because it's still infused with shame and guilt. So people are moving into a relationship with a lot of fear and a lot of hesitation, because they're anticipating that if this doesn't work and if this ends, my God, it's going to destroy me, and what would people think, and my life will be a failure. And I think that's a real shame. Because I don't believe that to be true.
No, I don't either.
So I think the conversation around it needs to, I don't know, it just needs to change slightly.
Well, I think this perspective needs to be spoken about it a lot more, because you're 100% right. The divorce thing, I remember growing up, it's like, oh my God, their parents got divorced. Do you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't, just being kids, it's like, oh, it's so sad. Broken family, this and that. I have never experienced that. So I can't speak from a place of experience, but I know that feeling and the voodoo that seems to surround it. And as I get older, I'm like, what? Do not stay together if you're not supposed. The repercussions on the children, the repercussions on everybody is huge. To be in anything, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whatever the hell it is. No, you're 100% right. It needs to change, because people always have a choice at every moment of every single day, and you're allowed to do whatever you want.
And I think that's where people get it. I know I have so many conversations with people just around choice in different areas. And I'm like, I always end up saying, just because you got to make a choice doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be fucking hard and ugly. No one is sitting here saying it's going to be really easy to leave your husband. No one's sitting here saying it's going to be really hard to quit your job that you've been at for 10 years or whatever, because of the uncertainty that lies afterwards. And I think you said it as well. With relationships, it's not the breakup that hurts. It's what the fuck do I do tomorrow morning when I wake up? What do I do when I want to say something and that person that I normally would say that first thing to, I can't just call them or message them? It's that's scarier than the actual breaking up part. That's what I found when my relationship ended. I was just like, oh, something cool happened. Hang on, I can't message that person now. Who am I gonna go talk to? But it's I just think people think it's never it's hard. Is what I'm trying to say.
We're always choosing something.
We
think that the only choice we make is the breakup, but I think for a lot of us, we're choosing the lie until we choose the truth.
Yes.
And so a very raw story I can give is that when my ex-husband and I finally decided that we were done, he had caught me being unfaithful within the relationship. And it wasn't the first time that it had kind of our relationship had unraveled and cracked. But each time he had asked me, had I done this certain thing, I had said no. I had lied. And he accepted the lie, and I knew that he knew that I knew that he knew, but we both decided to just accept the lie and continue and try and find a way back to each other to make it work. And I recall the last time that he kind of called me out on it, I was imploding in so many ways. I wanted out, so I was creating all these reasons to get out, right? And he asked me, did this occur? And I remember looking him in the eyes. It was one of the big choices I made in life, to choose the truth and to say, yeah, I did. And I remember him being so mad, and I recall feeling like he's not even mad that I've done this thing. He's mad that now we actually have to deal with the fact that our relationship is over. Because we had disconnected, there was no intimacy, the physical relationship had dissolved well before. So it wasn't actually the act that had infuriated him. It was like, oh my God, you've gone ahead and acknowledged this, you've made this choice. Now we have to deal with that.
It's the hard work that comes after it.
So we're always choosing something. It's just, what are you? Are you choosing the lie? Are you choosing the truth?
That's exactly how it was for me, but obviously I wasn't married. Felt like I was married. Felt like I got divorced as well. But like having to deal with like selling the business and everything,
Yes.
I was like, oh, it'd just be so much easier if we just kept doing this for the rest of our
Yes.
lives and just pretended everything was peachy.
Yes, right?
Also want to kill
It's
this.
such a long time.
I know, but that's I know, right? I know. It was like
Yes.
deal.
But everyone thinks it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, just keep going.
Just keep going.
I'll wait this many months, and I swear to God, if I
It'll-
know by then, if it's not a definite yes by then, I'll say no.
100%. Do you know, I knew it was really time to leave because I was turning 29 years old. It was my birthday.
Yep.
I was still with my first husband. I was turning 29, and the feeling that I had was like, how much longer does life go for? I was like, I'm only 29. How am I going to sustain this for the rest of my life? And I
Yeah.
had this moment where I was like, I don't think you should feel like this at 29.
No, definitely
I don't think
not.
you should be hoping for curtains already, you know? I was done within my own life at 29, and I was like, there's got to be more. And I have to allow myself for more.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And then when you guys came back, was it straight to Geelong from there?
That's a whole other story. So. No, well, yeah, kind of, yes. It all happened really quickly.
Yeah.
Really, really quickly. So when I was officially separated from my husband, and I moved to Geelong with Steve probably 3 months later.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant with our son 6 months after that.
So I didn't really know what to expect when you were coming today.
Yes.
But we've spoken about this whole I don't know, I sound really passionate. I've never been married.
Yes.
I haven't been. My longest relationship was with Lance, and it was 2.5 years, and we planned everything together. Like we wanted to do so much. But it was really weird. When we were breaking up, it was like we chose each other.
Yes.
We chose ourselves and we chose each other,
Yes.
and we separated.
Yes.
Like, and it was the most incredible experience of my life because I didn't know you could do that. Like it's like nobody's told me you can do this. I didn't know that you can be about to break up at 6 p.m. on a Saturday night, bawling your eyes out with each other at a table, and you can say, hang on, I can't do this right now. Can we please just wait? And not pretend like everything's normal afterwards, but come back to it 24 hours later, or come back to it 48 hours later, and then sit down and be like, how are you feeling? And both of us be like, I can't do this. Fucking eat dinner together 6 hours later and be like, I love you. I want you to achieve everything that you fucking possibly could in your life. I know you can't do that with me. So I want you to go do it for yourself. And then I can't wait to see what else happens. You know, and for us both to have that. And ever since it was like our whole relationship felt like we met each other at teacher training, then we worked together, then we just fell in love while we were working together. And then like we were like the Melbourne parents of the yoga studio that we're working for, yoga and Pilates studio we're working for in Melbourne. And it's like, I had this story going in my head. I was like, but it's picture perfect. Like it looks perfect. And I was like, and this is where I think a lot of people get stuck too, because like, yeah, fucking oath it was. Everything's perfect in all of its beauty and all of its ugliness. Everything's always perfect. So why the fuck shouldn't the end be perfect too? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then the whole thing's perfect.
Yes.
Like, how beautiful's that? And like, ever since I had that experience and went through that, and don't get me wrong, afterwards, we had our first fight probably like 3 weeks after we broke up. We spoke to each other the next day and we were both laughing. I was like, that was intense. And she was like, yeah. And we still talk now. Like I said earlier, we still talk most days now. And I was just like, holy fucking shit. This whole relationship thing is just so interesting. Because I fucked up and been a part of so many extremely messy relationships. Again, I'm sure everybody has. But I thought you laughed. I thought you just breathed. I heard you go. And I was like, which part of that was...
What?
Do you know, Steph, it's been a really interesting thing for me to understand, and I still don't fully understand, right?
Yeah.
I'm studying this deeply as I kind of work through it. It's really important for us to choose carefully who we're going to share ourselves with in this life, because the imprint of literally the physicality that we share with somebody, the way that is encoded within us and we carry it within our body is something that I'm like obsessed with reading about at the moment. Because I feel it. And so I've not been with my first husband for 5 years. We were together for 11 years, but I don't think time matters. Every time I speak in terms of time, I just think that's irrelevant, right? Intimacy can happen in a moment. So it's not so much the time, but I suppose I was with him from when I was 18 till like almost 30. So it was like who I knew myself as
That's a really
woman.
intense time.
Yeah, so it was it's most of my memories, most of the pivotal moments in my life included him in some way. And so I'm what I consider a grown-ass woman now at 35, happily married, so content within myself and my life. And there will be times that my body, for whatever reason, I'll experience a thought or a sensation and I crave him. Yes. And I will feel, not even him, his body. And I will feel my hands like reaching for the hands that held mine in these really important moments. Or I just want that certain part of his shoulder that felt like home for so long. And it's such a confronting experience because there is no part of me that wishes this man could be my current reality.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Released him. There's nothing. Even if he knocked on the door now, I'd be like, fucking get rid of him. I got nothing to say to him. Wish him well, but not. Right? So it's not that. It's not it's not a confusion about did I make the right decision? Am I with the right person? It's just this full awareness that the memory of that stays within us.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of fascinated. And I will just let myself cry and I grieve and I kind of just let myself realize that the codependency that I still feel within me is the very reason that I had to leave, and I'm still working to excavate that out of my being, and I may never. And what I'm realizing more and more now as I look into this is that we're also carrying the memories of past generations that were never excavated, right? So this is where I'm like, oh my God, this shit is like amazing, and this is why it's responsible. Like I'm responsible for doing this work so that I'm not continuing kind
of course,
you know, probably already have. My beautiful little son is obviously carrying a lot of, you know, what has been encoded within his DNA. But point being, even when we think that a relationship has ended, even when we feel like we have lost something or something no longer exists in our current reality, carry it all within us. So we don't ever feel like we have to feel like we've said goodbye or that we're without something that was important to us. It is all there. We don't get away in this life with connecting with someone or having intimacy with someone and not feeling like that becomes part of who we are. For some of us, that's a beautiful thing, and we can take comfort that they're kind of like woven into the tapestry of who we are, and so we carry them. I've got past relationships or people that I was just with briefly that I shared intimacy with that I don't want for my entire life, but I value so much. And I love those connections, and I loved what we shared in that time, and I love the way it feels when I even think about that as part of my own history and story, and so that can feel nice. For people that want nothing to do with some of the connections that they have made, that's where the work is. And that's where, you know, you can go to different types of therapy, and you can do your talk therapy, the cognitive stuff, the breathing stuff, the movement stuff to get all of that out of you. But it's a choice you get to make. And so if you feel that relationship that you had with an ex-partner is a valued piece of you and something that you want to keep within you, it's there and you carry it, and you don't have to feel like, you can smile into it every single day and feel it within you and feel how it has shaped you and know that it is who you are.
It's really beautiful. Ariel and I would speak about, because even like what you're saying, even sleeping in the same bed as one another, she knows people that do a lot with like and I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to speak to this, but like all the masculine, feminine stuff and everything, that actually sleep in separate beds because of how much you weave into each other's lives. Now, I don't necessarily think you need to do any of that, but it's just interesting. I found like even ending this last relationship or moving out of this last relationship, I even found that there were parts of me that I was like, oh, that wasn't me. That was you. I just thought it was me because we were so interconnected and how much that affects us. So I look at people in like, Ariel said the same thing about one of her really long relationships. They lived out on land somewhere. She's like, I thought this is what I wanted. I wanted to live here forever. She's like, I moved to the city, and I was like, that wasn't even my dream. And I was like what you said, it's so important who you choose to spend your time with, because we think it's just these like meaningless interactions that we have with people. Like, oh, they're gone now, they're gone. It's like, they're like imprinted on you. For what, like you just said, if you don't want it and you don't do the work, possibly for the rest of your life and for more to come after that. It's incredible. It's an incredible it changes everything, because then in what you said earlier as well, that responsibility that you have, that affects all of that as well. Because it's like you're taking that into everything too.
And we only know what we know. You know, we're all doing the best that we can most of the time.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I think that's it. And that's what I mean. Like, every day I'm just like, I don't know whether I'll read something or I'll hear something, and my overall feeling is like, I'm an idiot.
Do you know, like, doing this?
Yeah.
I get on here and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, right?
But I love it because it, you don't know. And the more, like, what's the thing? It's like the more you learn, the less you know, because you realise just how much there is.
Yeah.
Which just keeps opening like this endless can of worms in every area. It's like, oh, great, more shit to unpack or more shit to learn. But that's the point.
Somebody, I can't remember who said it not long ago. I was listening to this thing and they were like, they didn't believe that you were, I don't entirely agree with this because I know some people that are incredible at things, but they're like, you're not actually alive for long enough to become a true master of anything. It's like, you're not on this planet for long enough to become a true master of anything. So you have no choice but to be a student whole life.
Yeah.
I think it was more the mindset at the end of that sentence. I remember reading that and listening to that and being like, yeah, fuck, we're not here for that long, really.
I read something recently that really gave me courage to just speak more openly. You know who Sadhguru is?
Yeah!
So I'm reading his current publication. I can't even think what the book is called. I read about 5 books on the go.
Yeah.
But anyway, his 2021 publication. And at the beginning, in his introduction, he's saying that everything that he shares, the way that he teaches, everything that he writes is just from the seat of his perception. So he's not trying to speak as a scientist. He's not trying to speak as the master. He's not trying to do anything but share his perception. And it was just this like clarity that dropped into me that I went, oh, we're allowed to just say, like, it's enough to just share what I perceive right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to courageously share from that seat and not feel like we have to constantly master something else or get an accreditation in something before we're even allowed to mutter the words that might sound anything vaguely like what we are experiencing. And so I just thought that was beautiful and powerful, and I've been sharing that with everybody. Like, he's like one of the top 50 most influential people in India, and if you can think about how many people there are in India, and if he's given himself the permission slip to say, like, I share with conviction, but it's just my perception.
Yes.
And here it is. And to impact so many people so powerfully with that, I just think how many of us are sitting back and holding words behind our tongue because we think we're not ready or we're not allowed or we need to be more qualified.
Yeah, I've been doing that with music for ages. It's just singing songs. I'm not anymore.
Yeah. And what impact comes next when we just allow ourselves to be like, my perception is valid, is worthy, is safe, is allowed, all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See, this is why we got her on.
I really like it.
I know. So.
You'll be getting messages from me now. I'll be like, answer your phone.
Well, thank you so much for being on the
you.
podcast this week. There were absolute... Well, I don't know. When I listen to you, sometimes I don't speak because I'm like, this all has to download in my head because I actually can't process this right now. But yeah, you're amazing. Everything you're doing with the work that you're doing, just as a human being in general. I love you.
But can I say, I love you too. Can I just say what you guys are doing and creating, I just think is so awesome. And I'm so grateful to just witness it all unfold. And I think the way that you're allowing other people to be mixed into these conversations with you is so beautiful and so powerful. And so thank you. I appreciate you guys just as much.
You're actually our last guest on season 1.
One.
Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. So thank you for being an amazing final guest on the Be More You podcast. Next week's our last episode, guys. And it's Stefan and I. So we'll see you back here next week. Bye.
Bye.